This is an exercise about pauses. How long a pause should you leave? Now, most of the time you can get the indication about the length of the pause that would suit the scene from the performances that the actors have given you. And this is true in this case as well. But when you come to the edit suite, you can change that pause. You can push the pause around. What shot should we see during that pause? You might want to lengthen or just tighten down a little bit. And this is a good example of the flexibility that you're given around these sort of situations. Now then, I need to tell you the backstory for this scene. Well, these are two brothers. We've got Philip and Mark again. They've just lost their dad. Mark has been watching on the TV in the living room Dad's old home movies, and he's reminded of an incident where, yes, he got into trouble on a beach, and it was Philip that managed to sort of pull him to safety. Probably not life-threatening, but certainly a scary moment for the young Mark. So, first of all, here is Mark's shot.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
And I've got to take two of that.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Yeah.
And we've got Mark sitting on the sofa.
You just remembered that holiday we had on the beach, haven't you? Clear a space for me, will you? Thanks.
Okay, let's have a go at putting it together. So this is going to be a real mixture of takes, I think. I quite like his walk in on take one. Quite like the fact that he comes to attention quite quickly. So I'm just going to take it to there where he stops and looks at his brother. That goes onto the timeline. Now I want Mark to look up.
You just remembered that.
Ignoring the sound, we can sort that out.
Just remembered that holiday we had on the beach.
Okay, put that in. Actually, I might as well put that in silently because the sound is going to be useless. So that goes on. Now the line from Philip I prefer is take one.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you?
We'll look at take two again. Can't remember.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you?
Yes, I think that's right. That's better. Take two. Right, take two.
You've
just remembered. Go back to the front of you've just remembered, which is there.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you?
Out. That goes onto the timeline, this time with the sound.
Beach, haven't you?
And we'll just take that little gulp from him. Probably to there, this time with the Atmos. And then come on, clear a space is only said on take one.
Come on, clear a space.
So the front of that.
Come on, clear a space.
He gets on the move, and we're going to cut to Mark on the sofa, who is to be joined by Philip. So quite a lot of shots.
Clear a space for me.
I'm going to try to do the eye contact business of him still in shock and...
Thanks.
Hate that tar at the end, but we'll leave it in for now. This is only an exercise. So let's have a look at all of that.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
Well, there's a lot that's okay about it. Let's have a look at the cuts one by one.
You just remembered that day.
Now, I think what's off-putting so much about that is the sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up Philip's shot and find some silence in this.
You just remembered that holiday we had on the beach, haven't you?
There's a nice bit of silence there. Take it before that gulp. Does that fill the hole? Let's just check. Yes, it does. Because I can roller the other one back a bit. The silence was so off-putting you can't really judge the timing of the shots. Here we go.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach.
Mark's okay, but I think Philip can make his brother suffer a little bit by not answering, just for a little bit longer. That's 15 frames more. Let's have a look.
You just remember.
Need to take a longer run up at that.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I notice there's an atmos change from 1 to 1, so what I might do is just hold on to that and dissolve. Let's do a 12 frame dissolve on that. Just caught the U. Knock it back a tiny bit. Yes, that's good. What might be a good idea, ticking clock or other sound effects, just to carry across that slight difference in atmos. So let's go on.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space.
Maybe that we're just a tiny bit long on Philip here. Haven't you?
Haven't you? Haven't you?
Again, I'm going to put a dissolve in the sound. With this sort of scene, you need to take a longer run up than the trim will allow. Yes, I know you can alter the spec of the trim function on the Avid, but you really need this to be quite long to settle into the pace that you're creating.
You just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space.
I think, yet again, I'm going to hold Philip a little bit longer before he speaks. This is another sort of half second.
Come on.
Maybe a bit more. No, it's too long now.
Come on, clear.
Again, there's an annoying change of atmos, so I'm just going to put a mix on the audio there as well. Let's have another look.
Just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space.
That's really good. I quite like that. So I think this is the worst joint. I think we don't need anywhere near as much of that shot to start with. And I think Philip, back into trim, can get going straight away. We won't take his little look away. Let him burst into action.
Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
Yes, that's better because he gives that little exhale.
Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
Funny bits of sound on the end of Philip's shot, which could come from Mark's side of things.
Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
There we are, now it's clean.
Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
Again, a dissolve on the sound.
Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
Okay, let's have a look at that in full frame.
You've just remembered that day we had on the beach, haven't you? Come on, clear a space. Thanks.
And he sits. I think that exercise was a good example that, yes, even though your actors have given you a nice dramatic pause between the speeches to allow time for Mark to come out of being in a trance, sort of watching the TV and the memories of those movies, to look at his brother, because we've put extra shots in, those shots themselves need room. But the fact that those shots are there has now increased the emotional content of the scene dramatically. And we really are aware that this was quite an important moment in both their lives, which Mark has conveniently maybe forgotten during his successful business career. But Philip remembers it really much, much better. On the downloads, you've got Too Loose, Too Tight and Just About Right versions. Look at the difference between those three versions. It's quite dramatic how you can screw the scene up both ways by making it far too loose or far too tight. The just right Goldilocks cut is what we're all aiming for. In addition to that, you've got the 3 shots involved, 2 takes of Philip and 1 take of Mark to pop together yourself. Have fun with this one.